This program is brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
The days of encouraging children to become lawyers, accountants, and other very common professions are coming to an end faster than anticipated. It is estimated that 7 million of today's jobs will have disappeared by 2020, and unemployment will jump significantly higher. In some international economies, the tax cuts and other stimulants, which helped create a hiring boom, are expected to wear off like a sugar high. Forbes reports that a fear of trade wars, potentially high levels of tariffs, a volatile stock market may lead to a recession, making companies lay off workers and pumping the brakes on hiring, resolving to technology and moving human resource between other countries. Along with moving jobs, companies will implement new technology and artificial intelligence to further cut headcount and save money. In some countries, such as Japan, artificial intelligence is being pushed into every company and is viewed by management as a miracle cure to get things done efficiently without actual human beings. In such economies, the only surviving careers are those that need human interaction. On home ground, the number of employed persons in Botswana stands at 417,162 out of a possible 600,000 people of employable age, which is significantly lower than half the population count. Now, about 90,000 graduates found themselves at home frustrated due to being unemployed. These unimpressive numbers have been blamed on a lack of vacancy openings in both the private and public sector. With that said, higher learning institutions continue to offer the same professional education, such as Old English literature, without consideration for the current market, let alone the future labour market. Seeing as Botswana is not a high technology-driven economy like such powerhouses as China and Japan, could this unavailability of jobs be due to the oversaturation of the current professions? Good evening and welcome to First Issues. HRMC Recruitment Managing Director Stuart White says a popular prediction estimates that 65% of students entering primary school today will end up in professions that do not exist yet. In this context, Stuart shares with us in the program what labour market trends are key to helping job seekers understand what opportunities might be in their local communities and elsewhere in the country or even internationally.
Yeah, I think where we're finding ourselves in the world in terms of the social changes, the economic changes, the changes in technology is what they're calling the fourth industrial revolution. And it's the changes in things like big data, analytics, artificial intelligence. All of these things are going to be super disruptive to the world of work, and jobs will become automated and roboticized. And because of all of those things being taken away and being done by artificial intelligence or whatever the case may be, there'll be less jobs for people as we know them. So there's a whole new skill set that will become available. I just came back from Europe a few weeks ago, and there was two specific examples of that. I went to go fill up my car with petrol. Not one person in sight. I'm not lying, not anyone, not a cashier, not a petrol attendant, do everything yourself. Another instance in Paris, looking for a public toilet, go to the toilet, there's a sign out there saying cleaning in progress. And this is automated cleaning. So the toilets close, the doors lock, and there's all of the water, disinfectants comes out, there's a drying machine, and there was just two examples of where technology has automated to obviously lower sort of routine type jobs, but that's just going to accelerate, and all of those jobs will disappear because they'll be done by either robots or computers.
Quite the shocking revelation, Stuart, but does that mean that we're going to be having 7 million people out of jobs?
I think, you know, we were always scared in the 1970s and the 80s when the whole idea of technology really started to really become central to business, because there was always this question about, will people become redundant? People will not become redundant, so there will always be jobs for people. It's just different jobs. So for example, you're not going to be a travel agent in the future, for example, because that's one of those jobs that's probably going to disappear, and is disappearing today as we speak. Because if you want to make travel arrangements, you no longer have to go to someone who will say, I'll book your flight, I'll tell you how to get from A to B, because Google Map tells you where to go, tells you how to get there. You can book online for everything from your bus, or maybe not here, but elsewhere in the world, from your bus, your train ticket, to your flight ticket. So that's an example of a job that disappears just because we have an internet and we have technology to do it. So it's about thinking of what jobs will be available and what skills will be necessary and valued. Yeah, and I think that's the conversations we've got to be having in business, in terms of what should we be preparing for, what should we automate, what should be the jobs that people will still do and humans will still be valuable doing it, and how are we educating our youngsters to prepare them for the future world of work that will be very different.
Stuart, we're well aware of the 7 million jobs now being obsolete by 2020. So then how do professionals, equip themselves, whether psychologically, professionally, if you may, for this kind of eventuality?
I think we can't accurately predict what jobs will be available, but we have to think, where is it most likely that our skills can be used, or where is it most likely that I'm going to be employed in the future? So we have to look at trends for that. And where is the world going? And if we look at where the world is going, we can say, how can we fit into that world in the future? So I was telling someone the other day about a trash engineer being a big industry and a big career in the future, because how we dispose of trash is becoming more and more important. Other things are, if we look at the surgence of our understanding of mental health, that's created a whole bunch of new professions as well, not just psychiatrists and psychologists, but just mental health counselors who are just trained in a different way in the world of work or elsewhere. So we need to look at what's going on. And the other thing that is very obvious is where there's a need to be more green, more environmentally conscious, and that creates a whole different industry on its own.
Quite interesting that you mentioned trends. You briefly mentioned trends, but what sort of labor market trends should people looking for jobs be aware of currently in this market?
Yeah, the trends in the labor market are quite distinct, because how we looked for jobs and how we recruited people is completely different today, because that's, again, it's the technology space. So you don't deliver a CV to an office anymore. Half the time you don't even get to go to even meet the consultant. So you're screened in different ways. So online platforms like LinkedIn and job boards and career sites, that's where people are searching for jobs. And also employers are less reactive now. There's definitely a shift away from, we will place an advert in the newspaper and see who responds, to be much more proactive, saying we're going to go out into the market and know before we have the vacancy who is there, where the talent is. What I have been saying when I've been speaking at conferences in the last few years is to say, don't be like brushing up your CV every 5 minutes, because the CV is going to be gone in another 5 years' time, of that I'm sure. Your CV will be online. I don't need you to send me your CV. I can go to LinkedIn and see your CV and see your references and who has said that you're good at this and that. So I think that's probably the biggest trend that we're seeing, is the online platforms, the networking, and also how we test for people and test for competence and check people's suitability with the organization.
With recruiters now looking on these online platforms and realizing that, you've got this person, that means that you're an employee or a professional is always being headhunted, right? So then that means that they're going to be job hopping, if you may. How then do professionals guard against being labeled disloyal by these employers?
Look, I think of how we view the world of work and loyalty has changed. So my mother worked for 2 companies her whole life, and she eat, breathed and slept those companies. And that was the sort of loyalty, perceived loyalty that people had, because there was jobs for life. That's all gone. So, you know, the jobs are changing so fast, the needs are changing so fast, that your job's not likely to be there in its same form in 5 years' time. So how can we commit to having a relationship with you for the rest of your life? So those discussions very rarely take place. Of course, a little bit different here and elsewhere in the world for things like governments and stuff like that, because sometimes you work for government, it is a job for life. And even in first world countries, that's the way that it is. But I think that will change. But I think the idea of loyalty is a false concept, because we are in a contractual relationship, and we enter into that relationship where you will sell your labor to me as the employer, and I will buy that from you for as long as I need that need your labor. So that's why we see even in Botswana, people go more for contracts now. So we're only committing for 3 years or 5 years because we know that nothing can be permanent.
We'll be right back with more issues of interest. In the meantime, you can visit our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
A warm welcome to First Issues. A sound financial literacy background and knowing the different types of financial products and services available are said to arguably be some of the ways to a good savings culture to actively participate in the economy for accelerated economic growth and development. Figures released by the Bank of Botswana's Commercial Banks and Other Deposit-Taking Institutions Household Indebtedness Survey Report of 2018 indicate that there was a total 21 billion pula owed to commercial banks, 64% of which accounted for unsecured personal loans. Many financial experts have argued that this scenario is a symptom of a lack of financial literacy, the ability to effectively manage or understand basic financial concepts or products. It has been also attributed to not knowing or understanding some products and services offered by varying financial institutions or how to best make them work. Such instances where individuals do not know when to get a loan, what type of loan to acquire and why are some of the factors considered in the scenario. Illiteracy in the financial basics has been blamed for the socio-economic disparity common in the country, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Save for a few institutions such as pension funds and savings and credit cooperatives that provide some form of basic financial literacy, the culture of learning about finances for personal gain still lags, while a lot of people do not know, let alone understand the different products and services available to them through financial institutions. Some studies have shown that low-income and lower middle-income classes continue to suffer the hand-to-mouth syndrome due to financial illiteracy, where households live paycheck to paycheck without sustainably growing their wealth. Some young individuals live lavish lifestyles beyond what their incomes can support without the aid of unnecessary high-interest personal loans, while many retirees have found themselves homeless, living on meager pension incomes, if anything at all. All this is said to be the manifestations of a mindset that does not grasp the necessities of effective financial understanding and management, or other financial services and products readily available for use. Joining us on the program is Tumelobi Tumelo, a financial consultant with Total Eclipse who believes financial literacy is one way to liberate Botswana of some of the unhappiness. She details what financial literacy is and what impact a lack of financial literacy can have on various groups in society.
First of all, financial literacy is about understanding, it's about being informed, and most importantly, applying the knowledge that you have, particularly regarding issues of finances. So when we talk about financial literacy, we're talking about understanding money, your relationship with money, and making money work for you. So in a nutshell, it's being knowledgeable about, financial products, financial services, and how to make that information work for you.
Why is it important to be financially literate?
It's important to be financially literate because it speaks to a broader, aspect of people's lives. People say money is important, and money is important, and we put it on the same level as oxygen, because you realize financial freedom is comfort. Financial freedom is being less stressed. Financial freedom is being comfortable. And financial freedom really is enjoying life without worries of financial issues. So financial literacy is important in that aspect. It allows for people to plan better for their lives, to create wealth, to have financially secure futures, and really to live a comfortable life if you do not want to live a wealthy life. Because some people just want to be comfortable, and money plays a very, very vital role in that aspect.
You kept referring to financial freedom with regards to financial literacy. Maybe you could go back to elaborating further and explaining instances of financial freedom and maybe financial imprisonment. Yes.
Financial freedom has different definitions. It really differs from one person to the other. Another person, it is not having to worry about, monthly financial obligations. In an instance where it's month end and you're so stressed out, you don't know how you're going to pay bills, you don't know how you're going to pay the debts that you've committed to. To another person, it might be being able to afford to go on holiday as and when you want to, or being able to plan and actually afford to go on holiday as and when you wish to. Another person, it might be, having a plan of how is your life going to be once you're retired. Because we all work different industries, but all of us are going to retire from work. So financial freedom may speak to such instances. It is being able to make financial decisions with little worry. We're not saying there are no issues, but we're saying the opposite of that, financial imprisonment, like you may say, is all of these predicaments that come with lack of money or inability to manage your money.
When we're looking at issues of financial participation, your investments, your stock markets, your bonds, all of that, we're talking about the economy as a whole. How then does that affect our economy as a country? We're now stepping out of the whole individual aspect to a larger, broader spectrum.
If we educate people and ensure that we have a financially literate, country, or a financially literate society, it means that now people are going to start participating in these financial services. And when you look at the contribution of financial services in the GDP of Botswana, it is less than 25%. And this means there's so much room for growth. When you compare to the first world countries, your UK, where it's service-based economies, where the financial service industry is the pinnacle of the economy, or it contributes largely. It means, by comparison, 25% can grow. There's room for growth. So when we educate people and ensure that they participate in the financial service industry, it is going to increase the contribution of people in that segment of the economy as far as growth is concerned.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world. Because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues and to another segment of Own Your Day, Own Your Life, a series that helps us make the connection between every aspect of our lives for an improved quality of being. Last week, Dr. Kiran Bhagat explained how urbanization has been one of the inconveniences to modern medicine, leading to a rise in non-communicable diseases. Tonight, he further explains how the nuclear family setup has led to conditions like stress and depression, as the spirit of a social community as a coping mechanism to a fast-paced lifestyle has been lost.
The main triggers of this are inappropriate food, the lack of exercise, the lack of sleep, and the lack of a social community. And that is something that people don't appreciate. We now increasingly live in what I would call a nuclear family or an atomized family. You know, before we had, you know, the idea of Ubuntu, you know, the South African word where we are because you are, you know, or Boto, where you have a community spirit, is now increasingly being lost because we have a husband and wife and a child, and Mosari Moholo is out in Masimu. You know, so you bring up your children in a very nuclear family. There's no community safety net. So the responsibilities of raising a child fall solely on the parents, whereas before you had a community, you had compassion, you had support, you had your neighbors. We now don't know our neighbors. We don't want to know our neighbors. You know, we have high walls, we have hedges, we have alarms. And so this lack of socialization is also imposing itself in terms of the stress that we face. We talked about the lack of exercise. People feel that there's not enough time for exercise. You know, exercise is free, it's cheap, it's easy. You can just walk on a daily basis. But people don't want to do that. They want a pill. People want to go to a supermarket and to buy a lot of the processed foods that are in a box. I've always said before, if it's in a box, be very suspicious of it, because all the ingredients have been taken out of it that keep it healthy. It's been put in a box in order to allow it to be preserved, so you can buy the Kellogg's cornflakes 6 months down the line because it's preserved, because it's dead. You know, if you took an ant and you put an Oreo's chocolate biscuit there and you put a banana, the ants or the insects would go to the banana because it's an alive, living thing. It wouldn't go to the Oreos because it's dead and full of chemistry. So it's the food that we eat, it's the beverages that we drink, you know, we talk about the Coca-Colas and the Fantas and the Sprites and the Energades, and all of these things are loaded with sugar. And they are literally on a day-to-day basis poisoning our population. So it's the beverages, it's the food, it's the lack of exercise, it's the lack of sleep, it's the continual stress that we have, and it's the fact that we are increasingly living in a very lonely but busy world.
Join us again for another segment of Own Your Day, Own Your Life on First Issues next week. Until then, good night.
This program was brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?